everyone. We are Marta and Ina from Keys2Success-Coaching, and we welcome you back to the Exploring Female Leadership series, where we have really good conversations with women who are redefining leadership on their own terms. So today we are very, very honored to spotlight Rochelle Santiago, an inspiring operations and procurement leader whose impressive journey spans giants like Cisco, Salesforce, Google, and now Workday. So welcome, Rochelle. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Ina. I'm excited to be here. I'm so honored, you guys inviting me to be part of this program. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so for everyone, Rochelle brings a rare blend of empathy, grit, and strategic excellence to everything she does, from transforming global teams to championing inclusive workplaces. And the best on top of that is she's honestly one of the most pleasant and inspiring people to work with. I can say that from my own experience.
Thank you.
So yeah, today we'll explore her leadership evolution and how she's navigated tech's male-dominated spaces and what she's learned about confidence, growth, and leading with heart. I couldn't be more excited. And so Marta, why don't you kick us off?
Of course. Thank you, Ina. And Rochelle, welcome again. We are very excited to have you with us today.
Thank you.
So, Rochelle, you've had such an incredible career leading global teams and driving transformation across tech companies. From your perspective, what do you believe are the most essential qualities of a strong and effective leader today?
Yeah, I think for me, the most important qualities are empathy, inclusivity, and transparency. Now, for empathy, especially when managing global teams, you have to understand diverse perspectives and meet people where they are. You can't really lead people to a new destination if you don't understand their starting point. And then with inclusivity, you have to build a team where every voice is heard and every person feels like they belong. They say true innovation happens when people feel safe to share their ideas. And then for me, transparency. I've always led by being clear about our goals and challenges, and also really importantly, holding myself accountable. My teams know I don't just ask for input, I act on it. And it's that consistency is how you build the trust that allows you to lead with credibility and with impact.
Thank you, Rochelle. I love how you brought up empathy and inclusivity, and not just as buzzwords, but as real ways of creating trust and innovation on a team. Mm-hmm. And that ties really well into something that so many women leaders wrestle with, the impostor syndrome, which is something I would like to talk about. Many women in leadership struggle with it at some point in your career. How did you experience it, and what helped you move through it?
Imposter syndrome is like that uninvited guest. And it showed up for me like it does for so many of us, especially at the start of my career. I felt like an outsider because I didn't come from a traditional tech background. I was far from it, but I was doing the work, but still I questioned my right to be in those rooms. But I found two things that really helped me move through it. First was mentorship and support. The support of my manager in the first tech company that I worked for was Cisco Systems. That was pivotal. She was a strong female leader and didn't just believe in me, she invested in me. She pushed me to get training. She pushed me to get all the certifications I would need, and constantly reminded me that my potential was already visible to others. And then second, it was the crucial mindset shift. I eventually just stopped trying to be a leader and was focused on being myself, a people person. I realized that I didn't need to prove I belonged. My job was to lead, and with my unique strengths. That's when you earn credibility and ultimately you start to defeat that internal critic. And so my aha moment came when I stopped trying to prove my worth and simply just focused on adding value. I stopped trying to be the leader that I thought I should be and started being the leader that I am, just leading with empathy, integrity, and courage. And that's when I learned probably my most important lesson was that, the most valuable asset is not a title, it's your authenticity.
Wow, that's so powerful. I got goosebumps, Rochelle. Especially your point about shifting from trying to be a leader to simply leading as yourself. Like you say, authenticity is very powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pick up on that. If you're not authentic, they read that.
Yeah, agree. And Rochelle, you've also mentioned that you had strong female role models early in your career. How did they shape you and how do you pay it forward now?
Oh yeah, I have to say I was incredibly fortunate to start my career in tech surrounded by women in leadership. I saw a tapestry of diverse perspectives in like directors and VP roles, and that experience was profoundly inspiring. They were kind of like my human playbook for leadership. I learned by observing how they commanded a room with presence and not just volume, how they spoke with conviction and how they listened with intention. That kind of subtle confidence, it wasn't taught in any class. I just absorbed by just being around them. And so now I make it my personal mission, try to be that role model for others. I believe in giving constructive feedback in private and then celebrating the wins in public. So if I'm in a meeting and I see someone is struggling to be heard, I'll find a way to uplift their voice and build their confidence. And so my big lesson from them, and the one that I try to pass on, is that you really don't need to be loud to be powerful.
Such a strong message. Thank you so much for sharing. Rochelle, in our pre-call, you told us that the next few months will be a test of your leadership. So how do you lead through transformative times while staying grounded?
Yeah, this is definitely a timely topic. I think the greatest test of a leader is not how you perform in a stable environment, but it's how you show up when everything is in flux. And I found that staying grounded comes from just one core place, and that's your values. And for me, it's always been about empathy, inclusivity, and actually clear communication. So when the transformation is happening, people are looking for a sense of control and a feeling of being seen. But my approach is simple. I just show up. I make sure my team knows I'm present and listening. And whether it's in a one-on-one meeting or an organizational wide forum, I prioritize creating clarity, even if that clarity is just simply communicating the plan to find the answers. And so ultimately, I've learned that you don't build trust by pretending you have all the answers. You build it just by being honest, by acknowledging the ambiguity, and then by making it clear that you and your team are in it together. And that's how we transform from being a group of just individuals into a resilient team. And I've learned that. I've just made sure that they knew that we were all going through this change together.
Thank you so much for sharing. So you've often been the only woman in global meetings and supplier meetings. So how did you stay grounded and confident in those settings?
Yeah, I spent much of my career as the only woman at the table, whether in a meeting in Japan or with suppliers in India. It can be intimidating, but I never let it shake my core. And I have to say my upbringing gave me a head start. I grew up with 3 older brothers. So from a young age, I was comfortable in male-dominated spaces, and I learned that navigating them was just, it was all about earning respect and not proving a point. So I focused on just being professional and letting my work speak for itself. And then I also learned, from the women leaders who came before me. I spent my early career observing how they carried themselves, how they listened intently, and how they engaged with conviction. I didn't just try to replicate them, and instead I used their example to find my own authentic style. And that experience actually taught me really a profound truth about confidence. It's not something you either have or you don't. It's a muscle that you build over time through repetition and resilience. And the more you put yourself in those challenging situations and trust your abilities, the stronger your confidence becomes. And so, my advice is simple. Just, don't just take a seat at the table, own it.
Thank you for saying, Rochelle. Get yourself outside of your comfort zone, right? To keep challenging yourself and keep growing. Thank you. Rochelle, one theme I keep hearing from you is the role of others, mentor, coaches, role models, your brothers, right? Who help you grow. How has mentorship and coaching influenced your leadership? And what advice do you have for women seeking or becoming mentors or coaches?
Yeah, mentorship has been everything on my journey. Early on, mentors helped me see what I couldn't yet believe about myself. And then later, professional coaching helped me pause and reset my direction when I needed it the most. And I found that the best mentors, they don't just give advice, they share their real stories. And great coaches ask the kind of questions that unlock your own answers. When I was, asked those difficult questions, it often led me down a path that I haven't even thought about, new paths that I never even thought that I could ever take. And so I guess my advice is, if you're looking for a mentor, don't just look for a powerful title. Look for a partner who will challenge your thinking while also, championing your growth. And if you're mentoring someone, remember this, you don't have to have all the answers. Your greatest tool is your ability to just listen and empower them to find their own way.
Wow, so powerful. That's a great reminder that mentorship is not about fixing people, it's about empowering them.
Exactly
I
what
love
you and Ina are doing.
I love it. So, Rochelle, building on that, I would love to ask, what's one mindset shift that has had the biggest impact on how you lead and live today?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest shift for me has been letting go of the idea that I need to have all the answers or do it all alone. Earlier in my career, I thought asking for help or not knowing something would be seen as a weakness. But over time, I realized that leadership isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's about creating space for others to contribute, to grow, and then to also challenge you. I do remember in one of my previous companies, I was offered to lead a team, and I was very reluctant to do so because I didn't feel like I was an expert in that space. But it was actually the individual contributors on that team that convinced me to take the role and said that they would help me gain the knowledge quickly. So what I learned from that experience was that they weren't looking for someone to teach them how to do their jobs, but someone who can elevate them. And that's exactly what I did. I got to know each of their individual strengths and then help this team evolve into a very high performing, well-respected part of the organization. And then today I lean more into collaboration. I listen deeply and trust the people around me. And I feel like it made me a stronger leader and helped me build more resilient teams. And then that shift from like carrying everything to sharing the weight has really changed how I show up both at work and at home.
Awesome. You've made significant transitions across industries and roles. In the introduction, I talked about Cisco, Salesforce, Google, Workday, right? You name them. So how do you align career growth with your personal values and well-being?
Yeah, every pivot I've made, whether it's into like a new strategy, like a new procurement strategy, or in a whole new company, it always came with discomfort and that fear of regret. But I learned that, not to wait until I felt 100% ready, because that moment will never come. Instead, I focused on my transferable skills. So people leadership, problem solving, and communication. And then I also leaned on my network to gather insight and help me prepare. So I also make sure that the roles that I take, I align them with my values. That's very important. And that's how I stay energized. So if something doesn't fit personally, then I know it won't last professionally.
Awesome. Looking back, what is one leadership lesson you wish you had learned earlier? And maybe on the other side, like what's one you're still working on today?
Oh gosh, I think it's just making sure that, you're the role model. Like, people will look to you for guidance. And so it's really one thing for me that I walk the talk. And I make sure that what I tell people or if I advise people on, that I'm doing it myself. That to me, I feel like has helped me build credibility and trust with my teams.
Yeah, awesome.
Leading by example.
Just leading by example.
Yeah, unfortunately, time is always passing by too quickly. So to wrap us up, Rochelle, what do you hope women take away from your story and your insights on leadership today?
Yeah, I hope women see that you don't need to fit a certain mold to be a powerful leader. You can lead with empathy, you can be collaborative, you can be firm and kind, and still be incredibly effective. Your journey won't always be linear, but every challenge that you have is shaping something with you. And I think if there's one thing I've learned, it's that confidence grows from progress, not perfection. Just keep showing up, keep learning, and lead in a way that stays true to who you are.
Thank you so much.
Rochelle, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us today. Your story is such a powerful reminder that leadership does not have to look one way and that staying grounded in who you are can be your greatest strength. Thank you. That was really inspiring. And this conversation was filled with so many gems, but here are a few takeaways that really stood out for us. Confidence is not something that you wait for. It's something that you build by taking action, even when you feel the fear. Empathy is not a weakness. It's a leadership superpower that builds trust, strengthens teams, and drives impact. And your path does not have to be linear. What matters most is staying open, staying curious, and trusting that each step is shaping you for what's next. To everyone watching, if you've ever questioned whether you are enough to lead, I hope that Rochelle's story is a proof that you absolutely are. We hope you leave this episode feeling seen, inspired, and a little more equipped to lead in a way that's both bold and true to you. Thank you for joining us on Exploring Female Leadership. We will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.